Hey guys, welcome back to MMA Library. Today in MMA and UFC news, Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith weigh in on the fight between Sean O'Malley against Pedro Munhoz this weekend at UFC 276. Bisping and Smith talk about Pedro's record and how he's been on a bit of a skid, dropping 4 of his last 5 fights. But Munhoz never takes an easy fight.
Then we get to Sugar Sean O'Malley and Pedro Munhoz. Sean O'Malley, Pedro Munhoz, what do you think?
Man, I think it's just a point in their careers type of conversation. You know, Munhoz is having a
Munhoz,
whatever. Pedro. Well, for Pedro is having he's just had a tough run at it, but he's had no easy fights either. So I do see a lot of the criticism and hear a lot of it on maybe maybe his last 5 fights or whatever. Maybe he's not been maybe the Pedro we all remember, but there is no easy fights there. That guy takes the toughest fights every single time. Love Sean O'Malley, love his style. I love watching him fight. I think he's at points. I think he's magical in there. But you can't say the same thing for Sean O'Malley's opponents. He's not taking the toughest fights. They're not the best guys in the world. This is a fight I'm really excited about because I have that much respect for Pedro. That if Sean O'Malley goes out and he does to him what he's been doing to everybody else, I think that his stock dramatically rises. Not only just because of guys like you and I know how tough that fight will be and how hard it will be to do those kind of things to him, but I think the rest of the world knows that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly a step up in caliber when you compare, Pedro Munhoz to...
and that's not to shit on Cheeto. I don't want to forget that. Like, I'm not saying that Cheeto's not on that level.
Well, we're not talking about Cheeto though, because Cheeto beat him. We're talking
right, and that's what I mean. I just want to be clear. I like Cheeto a lot, and I don't want it to be like, what do you mean he hasn't fought anybody good? Like,
no,
he fought Cheeto when he got beat, but like recently since Cheeto, he hasn't been taking super tough fights.
Well, because he spoke about that. He was very vocal. Yeah. He said, listen, I don't want to do that. I want to wait until I'm earning, I'm on my next contract or something like that. And, you can have mixed thoughts on that. But I guess ultimately that's kind of smart. But there's definitely a step up from Julian Paiva and Chris Matinho that took a UFC debut on short notice. Guys, top 15. I'm not sure what he's ranked right now, but he's lost 4 out of his last 5. Right. Lost last time to Dominic Cruz. Cruz has still got it.
Max Holloway responds to Khabib at the UFC 276 pre-fight press conference, saying that Max didn't have the kind of fire that Volkanovski had in his last few fights, and Khabib was picking against Holloway in this fight.
There's been a lot of talk about fire, like Khabib Nurmagomedov saying he thinks Volkanovski has more fire than you heading into that. Yeah. What do you think he means by that? Because you seem pretty fired up right now. And you've certainly shown a lot of fire in your last 2 performances.
I mean, what I think Khabib means, I think Alex should be happy. He got a fan watching his cooking shows. That's probably the fire he's talking about, So at the end of the day, I'm playing video games, so I guess you can't really see the fire. I mean, I scream when my guys and my teammates screw up or when I screw up, and that's pretty fire to me. But Khabib actually probably sees literally fire on the grill that Alex is using to cook, so that's probably where it got from.
Does this have to be a finish? I mean, given how close the other fights were and how the judges kind of broke your heart a little bit, I mean, do you feel like, I got to finish this fight? We see what happens, At the end of the day, it is what it was. You don't cry over spilt milk. Like you said, the first 2 fights, even the second fight, Dana White said what he said. About half of the UFC roster said what they said. So at the end of the day, I wasn't trying to add no fuel to the fire. You let it go, you move on, and we did what we did. We're here now. Nice. Last thing for me, I know you got to focus on Saturday night and getting that win, but where does this rivalry go? I mean, do we go 4? Do we go 5? Like, what has to do to put an end to this? We see what happens, First things first is getting the job done on Saturday. My name ain't Dana White, as you know. It ain't Sean Shelby, McMahon, Hunter Campbell. I don't meet with these guys on Tuesdays, so that's their job. I'm no matchmaker. I'm a fighter. Whatever they want to do, we want to do. There's a lot of history in a weight class above me that I have, and I got a history with the guy who I consider stood the champ there. I'm a short list for Conor, and there's a bunch of dream matchups that fans want to see at 55 for me. So we'll see what happens. But first thing first, Alex got my full attention, and I can't wait to go out there and show the world why I'm one of the best to ever do this and to ever be in this game.
UFC President Dana White announced on Yahoo Sports that if Alex Pereira is victorious this weekend against Sean Strickland at UFC 276, he will be fighting Israel Adesanya if Stylebender retains his title this weekend against Jared Cannonier. Alex Pereira holds 2 defeats in kickboxing over Adesanya, so the buzz around a third fight is definitely present.
You know, you look at the fight earlier on the card with Strickland and Pereira.
Oh,
If Pereira can win this fight, puts him, you know, in a very fun fight with great storyline against Adesanya.
yeah, no. For people who don't know, Alex Pereira knocked out Adesanya, brutally knocked him out. I mean, it was not an easy knockout in a kickboxing fight a while back. So he's fighting Sean Strickland. So let's talk about that fight, because I mean, I wanted to go to O'Malley next because I think O'Malley and Munhoz are good. But let's talk about Strickland and I think
if we're talking about Adesanya, we got to talk about that fight, right?
Right. I mean, so that's a big fight there. You know, what is your take then on Pereira? He's a guy that came in, you know, with a reputation, but not a lot of MMA experience. But he seems to have really made a lot of progress in a short period of time.
Well, much like Adesanya. I mean, both these guys came from Glory Kickboxing. Pereira is a former double champion there, middleweight and light heavyweight. He's got 2 wins over Isreal Adesanya, and you know, he's got 2 wins in the UFC right now. So taking on tough, durable, nutty Strickland, which should be a damn good fight. And if he wins, it makes a lot of sense to do the Adesanya fight.
Isreal Adesanya predicts a 5-0 shutout against Jared Cannonier on Saturday for UFC 276. Speaking on the Jim Rome show, Adesanya says that Cannonier will eventually shut down.
Spectacular. I mean, we all know what we're talking about. Knockout submission, maybe even like a 5-0 shutout, complete shutout, and the destruction of Jared Cannonier. If he's tough enough to handle what I'm bringing, the onslaught I'm bringing, but I really don't think he is. I feel like even the cardio, like once he starts to get tired and feels me growing, he's going to shut down.
Dana White says that if Volkanovski wins against Max Holloway, he can move up and fight for the lightweight belt. He can do whatever he wants.
You know, this is a fight that absolutely has to happen. If you look at all the great things that Volkanovski has accomplished, you know, since winning the title, he's got to get this Max Holloway thing off his back. They got to fight one more time. And for Max, obviously, you know, the other fights were so razor thin close. You know, Holloway has to go for this one more time, too. So this is a fight that absolutely has to happen with 2 of the best of all time in that division, and we'll see which way it goes.
All right, so Dana, if Volkanovski wins on Saturday, how strong is his argument as the greatest featherweight of all time?
Pretty strong. Pretty strong.
And then if he does, what do you do with him? Are you open to him moving up for another belt?
That's what he talked about. From what I'm hearing recently, he's been saying he's thinking about moving up to 55. So, you know, you beat Holloway again, you let that guy do whatever he wants to do.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to MMA Library for all the latest MMA and UFC news today. We'll see you in the next video.